Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Capital Edge's Tip Line. This is Chad Braley, the CEO and founder of Capital Edge. And as many of you know, there's still a lot of things going on. So we're going to get right to it today. I apologize for the background. We're on the road this week teaching and speaking at the Federal Publication Seminars Tampa Week. So we've got some nice Florida sun out the window here in the back. So good news, we've got a budget. So got rid of the continuing resolutions. We now have a budget in place. That's a very good thing and a nice hurdle to finally have overcome. Obviously, our court systems are extremely busy right now with a number of different cases involving a number of different things. We are going to give a quick update on U.S. foreign aid. A couple of things there. We have a memorandum coming from the State Department /USAID, where they have specifically identified the types of programs they are going to continue and identified the types of programs they are going to permanently discontinue and take away statutory authority to continue at all moving forward. Interestingly enough, that's supposed to be out probably later this week. They're going to bring back about 100 contracting officers with the goal of having program closures wrapped up by April 19th of 2025, which is going to be quite the effort and quite the lift. We also have notification from OIG that they're coming in from a USAID perspective and trying to identify assets, right, that have been purchased with foreign aid funds and helping identify where those assets are. Obviously, if you're a contractor and you have assets, I hope you know where they are and make sure we're inventorying those. We're getting disposition instructions from our contracting officer. And if nobody's home and answering the mail, hopefully these 100 contracting officers coming back will be able to answer the mail and provide some direction. Good news on the foreign aid front, some of the payments have been happening. I know there's still a couple $2 billion that has not been paid for work performed through February 13th. So for those of you doing work with USAID, hopefully those payments are coming in. Another one of the court cases we kind of alluded to and or mentioned, I think in last week's edition, is with NIH looking to reduce indirect spend to 15% across research grants. And there are a number of obviously organizations who are filing suit against that. Some of those suits have been enjoined. That is on pause for now. We'll see how that plays out. I think it brings two things to mind. One is, the administration is clearly focused on cost, right? We have this NIH piece. We're terminating, foreign aid contracts that don't align with the president's agenda. We have the top 10 consulting firms that do work with DoD under scrutiny, having to, quote unquote, defend their spend, which is on contract for about $65 billion, I believe, for the current and future years for the existing consulting contracts. So clearly the message, right, and it started with AID, it's percolating over into NIH, and it's going to quickly be coming to DoD and many other agencies, is a focus on cost, right? And some of the questionnaires that our clients have been receiving to justify their programs even speak to what is your overhead rate, which is a very misleading question because companies collect costs differently, right? They allocate costs differently. So it's never a one-to-one comparison. But I think, it should be taken well into consideration. Do we need to evaluate the cost structures to help make ourselves more lean and mean? Do we need to potentially change some certain cost accounting practices to get more cost direct if the focus is really going to be on the indirect rates and the numbers, the actual rate itself being applied? So something to think about. I think this is kind of the initial view of the playbook, if you will, that's going to be used in some of these other programs moving forward. And then we're continuing to watch some of these cases to see what's happening, how things are moving forward. Are these terminations, for example, within USAID prior to February 13th going to be deemed valid or not, which is going to kind of change the game. If we're really wrapping up and attempting to wrap up closing these programs by April 19th, the definition around that is that termination settlement proposal submitted and negotiated by that point in time with 32 days to go. That's a heavy lift if that's the expectation. Obviously, we know under the federal acquisition regulations, we get 12 months to do that. So how they prioritize and what kind of quote unquote program closure really means is going to be very important. Next week, we're going to touch base in a little bit more detail with some of the changes to the recent either new or modified audit programs from DCAA. We also posted on that LinkedIn since the beginning of the calendar year, either 30 new or updated programs out there. Kind of walk through, we're starting to do some comparisons between prior program, current program, and or the additions of different programs, especially as it relates to accounting system and estimating system. So we'll get into a little bit more detail next week. Until then, if you are attending the Tampa Week of Federal Publication Seminars, I encourage you to come by and say hi to the Capital Edge team. We've got a number of people on site this week, and we'll be teaching a number of different courses. And we look forward to seeing you. Bring your questions. And until then, we'll talk next week. Everybody take care.